Hey everybody, it's No More Off here. Today going to be taking a look at BAM! Man purses. No, just kidding. Going to be taking a look at get home bags. Quick thing I wanted to say, not to be confused with bailout bags. A bailout bag is something that you would use, you'd have loaded in the case of an emergency when you need to get away from high population areas. Something that you could grab and just get out of the house and go. Would have everything you need to survive on, any foreseeable time period. The difference between that and this, a get home bag, this is in case something happens while you're away from home, what do you need in your car to make it home safely, successfully? So that's what the purpose of this video is going to be, taking a look at the get home bag, just what I have inside mine. One thing I want to say about the get home bag is that it's a work in progress, always constantly upgrading, switching items out for enhanced ones if I can find them, or adding new complete items I might not have thought about originally. Not actually going to review the bag, maybe I'll do that in a separate vid. But this is LA Police Gear's Jumbo Bailout Bag. Obviously it could be used for any assortment of things. I chose it for a get home bag. So one of the considerations to make is your relationship to getting back home. I'm not going to go into detail about the scenarios that would prompt you to need to get the get home bag. Probably do that in another video, but basically any sort of emergency situation. People say, oh, people that think that's never going to happen, what's going to cause you to need all this stuff in an emergency situation? And people fail to realize emergencies that could go a lot worse and that do go bad. I mean, for example, Katrina. I mean, things like that. You need to get home very quickly in order to save lives, save your own life, get your family out of an emergency situation, out of a dangerous area. So one of the considerations you need to make is, how far do I need to travel in order to get home? Am I going to have to travel on foot? It's a definite possibility that for some reason your car might not work. So you need to be able to grab something, and with that bag that you grab, you need to be able to make it home safely. So probably going to take a look at things here individually, as it's going to be difficult to show everything. The bag is not too large, it's pretty manageable size, but I'll show you what I have in here. So doing this by compartment, the first compartment I have is basically like an admin pouch. I've got various things in here. Paper, always important to have. Pens to write with. Lighter, compass. I usually have my outdoor GPS in here, I just don't right now. Multi-tool, gotta have one. Simple knife sharpener. I'll put this down for you, get a better view here. Just some of the stuff I have in here. That's the main stuff. Earplugs, these are cheap ones. I'm not sure really why I have this pair in there. I think I just kind of threw them in there, but just something that if for whatever reason there are really loud noises or you have to be using your gun, you can. Two different knives I have in here. I've got a Columbia River knife and tool tiebreaker. It's a pretty nice little knife. I might do a separate review on this. And then I have SOG Trident. It's a good knife. Why do you have two knives? Well, to be completely honest, I'm always going to have three knives because this Blackhawk knife that I have, don't remember what the name of this one is. This is always on my person, no matter where I go, unless I'm on an airplane, pretty much. This is always in my pocket, but this is more of a self-defense type of knife that I would want to use. You can get a larger purchase on it. It's got the application for a seatbelt cutter inside, and then this would be finer things. Since I have this knife, I would probably use this as a utility knife and beat this up. I do beat it up. It was only $30. It was a $70 knife, but I got it on clearance from Blackhawk. So this I might use for finer things. Maybe I have to use it for food. You know, if I'm not getting this knife dirty and this is doing most of the grunt work, this knife might serve as something for food. Something that's going to be important in a survival situation is being able to make a fire. This is, I think it's called a Mr. Sparky. Basically, you just hold this down and jam this into something. You see it in my Winter Fire series. Use it to make a fire. You press down here and spark that. It'll make a spark, as you can see right there. Obviously, can't hurt to have a lighter. Simple compass. You know, again, usually I'm going to have my GPS in here. I just was loading maps on it the other day, and it's not in here currently. But as soon as this goes back in my trunk, it's going to be in there. The next compartment I have on here, and probably one of the most important, is my main weapon. And this is very, you know, again, you have to consider what's in your pack. You know, you might switch this out depending on what mood you're in. At least that's how I am. Right now, I've got a Beretta 92 in here. Just kind of my favorite gun as of right now. Gun is safe. I've got 2 mags, at least 2 in here. A lot of guys are going to say that's not enough, and I agree with that. I just actually ordered some new Mech-R magazines. Those are going to be always in here. I ordered 5 of them. 18 round mags. They're actually flush, just like the 15 rounds are, and they're actually a higher quality magazine. I do have a couple other ones. I think they're just in my range bag right now, but you know, I'm not going to get into why I have this gun in here really too much, other than it's a heavy duty gun. It's never failed for me. In an emergency situation like that, I want something reliable. This has never been anything other than reliable for me, so that's why it's in here. Do have a little bit of Hops gun cleaner in here, obviously, if I have to do any cleaning in the field, as well as a bore snake. So that's really all I have in this compartment. Flipping it around to the other side, next pouch I have here, I have an extendable baton. You can see that here. Why have an extendable baton? You know, you saw that I have the gun, but you may not want to go lethal. I don't want to call this a non-lethal, but we'll say less than lethal. Obviously, you could seriously injure or possibly kill someone with something like this, and that might not be your goal. You might just need to get past an unruly person, or, you know, disable someone from attacking you and not actually have to go for putting them down permanently. Something like this to the inner behind the knee will certainly do that very quickly. They will be dispatched. But these other pouches, I don't really have anything in here right now. These smaller patches I haven't really found a need for, other than putting little walkie-talkies in here. You know, I usually am going to have my ham radio in this other pouch. I do have insignia patches here, but I've removed those so you can't see those. But you know, ham radio, larger radio, it might be something that you would want to put in there. But mainly right now, just quick access to the baton. Okay, so now getting to some of the meat and potatoes of the actual inside. This is mostly everything here. Again, initially I had said that you want to consider the situation that you're in should you have to make it home from work. That's usually where I am during the week. That would be the place that I'd be having to get home from. Consider how far you live from work. How easy is it going to be to travel from work to your home? For me, it's about 10 miles. 10 miles, I can certainly make it there within a few hours' time. Under optimal circumstances, sure, I can walk 10 miles in a few hours, taking my good old time. But obviously, again, this is an emergency situation. Might take you a little bit longer than that, so you need to be prepared for that contingent. Something for you to consider. So, assuming I can't move as fast as I would like to on foot, I might have to spend my time overnight in the outdoors. You might have noticed that I didn't have any sort of filter for my water. The space between my place of employment and my home is mostly urban for the most part. So in the case that I had to, I could scavenge for additional supplies. So I don't need to load myself down, weigh myself down with things like water filters and things like that. Access to water, at least initially, is going to be pretty simple. That would be something that you would have in a bailout bag, not necessarily a get-home bag. But again, maybe you work 40 miles from your home and you live in a completely rural setting and you still need to get home. That might be a situation where you might want to add something like a water filter, for example, to your get-home bag. First aid kit. This is a sportsman's kit, designed, but basically the reason I like this one is it's designed for serious injuries that might happen in a situation where civilization has basically stopped or ended indefinitely. Gunshot wounds, serious knife wounds or something like that. You can basically handle those with this. Obviously, again, I have some food. I try to cycle these out. Obviously, you don't want to leave those in the car for too long, exposing them to the elements. These are not enough, though. You would need to have more than those. Probably, I would say in a situation like that, minimum you would want to have 4,000 calories in there. In my situation anyway, that's the minimum I would want to have. Enough for likely a day and a half. Again, since I do live in a more urban setting, I would have the ability to scavenge for food if I had to. Moving along, lighting, that's definitely going to be important. If electricity's out, having a flashlight with fresh batteries, extra batteries will help, definitely. Got another light. This is a headlamp by Streamlight. This is their Argo HP. I believe that's about 65 lumens. This light is 235 lumens. It's one of my favorite flashlights. That's why it's in here. I have 3 of these though. But, 2 is 1 is none mentality there. Having a headlamp like this one makes things a lot easier for when you're doing a lot of movement in the dark or working with your hands, doing things that require two-hand movements, using both hands to do something. Having a headlamp helps a lot. Do have a pair of gloves. I use these when I do some shooting drills. These are Blackhawks Solog glove. It's got a hardened knuckle on both of them. Really nice gloves. Those would be something that I would want to have on in a situation like that. If I do have to use my hands for self-defense, I've got a little added bonus. Also keeping my hands warm if it is cold or anything like that. And speaking of the cold, we talked about the materials for having a fire already, but I also have a heat shield bivvy. This one is by Adventure Medical Kits, same company that makes this. Basically what this is, it just insulates you. It reflects your body heat back to you, so in the middle of the night, you can retain, I believe this one retains 90% of your body heat. So that's going to keep you warm, even if it's really cold. Again, I live in an urban area, so being able to find shelter is a possibility, not necessarily 100%, but it's possible. The other thing that you see here, but might not realize you're looking at, is a wool blanket. This here is a wool issued blanket. This is in my trunk as well. So in a situation where it's really cold and this might not be enough, I've also got this wool blanket. I've got a couple hand warmers in here as well. When your hands are warm, maybe this is just a personal thing, but when my hands are warm, I just feel better overall. It can be really cold out, and if my hands are warm, I'm happy. When your hands are cold, life sucks a lot worse than it would usually. And if the shit has hit the fan, life sucks as much as it needs to already. At least your hands will be warm. Extra ammo, 200 rounds extra ammo. Glucose tablets. I like to keep these because it's a quick boost of sugar where you might not otherwise be able to get quick carbohydrates into your system, quick sugars. These will pick you up fast. And then again, I just have a little rain blanket there. I just kind of stuck that in there, just a little poncho. So that's what I have in the get home bag. Again, it is a work in progress. So that's the get home bag in its totality. Again, a quick overview, things you want to think about. How far are you likely going to have to travel from where you usually are during the week to your home or your apartment or your family's house if you live by yourself? These are the kind of things you want to consider. And then what's in between that space that I'm going to have to travel? The reason I say from thinking your place of employment is usually because that's where you are most of the week. I mean, you're there at least 40 hours, most people are anyway. You know, but similar situation, you know, the general area that you live in, think of having to get home on foot from places you typically go to. How would you do it? What way would you go? Would you want to go on a main highway? Would you want to stay on back roads? Things you need to consider. Obviously, the latter would probably be the safer because a lot of people, obviously you're not the only one trying to get home, a lot of people might be traveling the main arteries of civilization and they might not be as efficient as they usually are. You know what things are like during rush hour? Imagine that 3 times as worse. Basic chaos. And you know, if civilization has temporarily or permanently stopped, you know, the rules of the road are going to go right out the window, and they pretty much already have from what I can see on the roads. But that's something else in itself. But you want to consider that. You want to consider self-protection, being able to protect yourself, being able to keep yourself warm and shelter yourself, being able to feed and hydrate yourself, and also any other essentials that you might need if you have a medical condition or something like that. Lights, you know, obviously that's something else to have, extra ammunition. So that's my get home bag. Again, always a work in progress, but that I think is a good starting point for anyone that's considering making their own or looking for other opinions. So that is my current interpretation of the get home bag. Whether you're starting your own or just thinking about additional items you might want to put in yours, hopefully that's a good starting point. Guys, have any questions or opinions or just looking for an extra data point, definitely shoot me a message. Please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate your subscriptions. It keeps me going. There's no more Op4, guys. Hope this helps. Take care.